Hey, what's up, everybody? Session number 4 with our workshop series focusing on what does it look like to do some servant leader development for the sake of ultimately understanding who we are, our purpose, passion, so that we can translate that to really impacting change in the lives of young people. So as always, want to really get right into the training and our workshop for today. Let me say this really quickly. My component of this particular workshop, which was somewhat similar to last week, is not going to be plentiful at all. This is going to be a very brief recording because most of the work for this particular session, it really requires you to step back and reflect upon what's transpired over the last 3 and now 4 weeks and really bring all of that together and formulate a purpose statement for yourself, as you will soon see. So the recording will be short. However, we're requiring a little bit more time outside of this space for you to really internalize and think through, what does it mean for me to be a person of purpose? A lot of you have great clarity concerning this already. Some of you may not. However, again, we're doing this just to provide some context, specifically for the purpose of saying, how does who I am, namely my purpose, translate to me being impactful for the sake of young people? So let me share the screen here and we'll get right into it. All right, so session 4, as you all have heard me allude to, deals with crafting a purpose statement, okay? To get into the session, we want to first consider our scriptural grounding from the Word of God. We have Proverbs chapter 19, verse 21, which reads, "Many are the plans in a person's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails." Many are the plans in our hearts, but it's the Lord's purpose that prevails. Now, this particular text is largely important for our discussion today, because it really hits to the point that when we are trying to clarify what purpose is for ourselves, as a part of that process, we have to work to understand what is God's purpose for our lives, right? Because when left upon our own aspirations, our own heart desires, we are going to be all over the place and consider things that add value in the temporary sense. Right now, this is what I want. Right now, this is what I deem I need. Therefore, this is what I consider my purpose. Hey, it's going to be some noise and different music in the background. I'm recording this at my place of employment. As you all know, for this particular component of what we're doing is not all the bells and whistles. We just want to get the content out there, and we'll make the aesthetic tweaks in the future. So we got a lot of plans in our heart, but the Lord's purpose is what's going to prevail. And in order for that plan to prevail, obviously, we have to know what his purpose is for us, which really takes time, which really takes a strategic journey and process similar to what we're engaging upon together to really deal with the harder questions of life and get to this place where we can work towards chiseling what we believe a guiding statement for our life could be, namely what our purpose is. So to provide some context, everyone on earth has work to do. And it may be different from one's job. A job might be the task that we get paid for in the moment, but work or purpose is a task that God gives us for our lives. Jobs come and go, but the work that is purpose-driven is going to remain. Your present job may be preparation for your ultimate work. I love that point because implicit in that point is the sense that everything we do as far as employment, we should be intentional to be people of purpose in those places of employment, to really use that as a training ground for us to live into our purpose, right? That even though I might not necessarily see how this job is in direct alignment with what I deem my purpose to be, we can be learning, we can be chiseling ourselves in that environment. This is an opportunity that God has given us to find, how does me living in my purpose add value to this environment, right? So you should be asking yourself that question, asking how could you be used by God in any place of employment that you find yourself in. The Apostle Paul had a job as a tent maker. But his ultimate work or his purpose was to advance the gospel of Jesus Christ. He was an evangelist. Evangelist, or the word evangelical, coming from the Greek word euangelion. Euangelion speaks to the Bible. So when you go out and you evangelize, you have to share the message of Jesus Christ, right? So I'm a tent maker, yet and still I know that I'm an evangelist. I'm a tent maker, yet and still I know that whatever I do, whatever I put my hands on, implicit in my work has to be sharing the good news of Jesus Christ. Everything that I do is pointing towards that ultimate purpose, that even though I might not necessarily be able to go in the door sharing my faith when I'm making tents, I'm building relationships that ultimately I can express truly and comprehensively to people who I am and what my life agenda and life work really is. Paul never drifted from his purpose. He was determined to leave his mark wherever he went. In fact, he might have been forgiven had he chosen to take a little sabbatical from pursuing God's purpose as he sat in prison or as he was awaiting trial. Paul never strayed. We see this in Acts 28 and 30. All right. So what I am going to share with you all today, having kind of grounded ourselves in the word of God, having grounded ourselves in scriptural context surrounding purpose, is this concept of what I like to call the sweet spot. Because I liken this concept of purpose to this phrase, the sweet spot. Because for me, anytime when I find myself living in purpose, anytime when I find myself truly aligning who I am and what I do with who God has made me to be, I feel like I'm in my sweet spot. I feel like I have more joy in that space. I feel like, all right, let me pick it back up where I left off. So basically what I was saying is when I find myself in my sweet spot, I feel like I have more joy. I'm in a place of peace like never before. And there is great alignment across all spheres of my life. That when I understand that I'm a person, specifically, what I define my purpose as is growing leaders who grow leaders and impact change in their communities. So as a husband, without trying to make my wife feel like a pupil, I'm always intentional of what does it look like for me to be about, first and foremost, growing myself as a disciple of Christ, and then helping my wife to take that journey alongside myself, as well as my daughter, so that ultimately we can impact change in our spheres of influence outside of our house. Here at my job, I have a prayer group that I've been working with, and my ultimate intent of that prayer group is that we would be a leadership cadre for the sake of impacting change in this school. Right now, my initial aspiration for connecting back with identity is to grow up a group of leaders who would take this journey, namely the one that you and I are embarking upon right now, so that we could be formulated into a core team for identity that ultimately would impact that ministry as a whole. So, that's my purpose. So since I have great clarity concerning what that is, and I absolutely feel like this is a purpose that God has given me, I start to align that with every area of my life. And then ultimately that consistency and that clarity allows me to just really, really enjoy who I am and really, really enjoy the life that I live. And again, it gets to a point where it's not about materialistic stuff. It's about God really getting the glory for my life. It's about me really, since I'm wired as a relationship builder, it's about me strategically being able to live into my strengths so that people are better. All right. Now, the next task, or the actual one that you all are going to work on, requires that you write out your statements. Okay. We're not going to do this, obviously, on poster paper. And actually, all really this week that you're required to write out is what I am going to share right now. There is nothing that you have to type during this session. Really, this week, all you have to do is watch the session and submit your action items to me within a week. So a picture of success was the first session that we talked about. Then we started dealing with potential and pain. From there, we dealt a little bit with what our passion is, what are we passionate about. And for the passion, I asked you all to go back to session 3. So I'll look back at that really quickly myself here. So when we started talking about describe yourself within one compact paragraph, talking about your strengths and the passion that you wrote about above as part of session 3. Okay, so ultimately now we're getting into the space of bringing all of this together. All right, so a little bit more of what you all are required to write out right now is beyond picture of success, potential, and pain, and then also passion will ultimately be your purpose. And let me show you all this graphic that I think brings this home. Okay, this is the sweet spot tool. Okay, this is a tool that when you get into this gray space where your life is aligning with what you say your purpose is that all of life becomes better for you. And ultimately, we always have to keep in mind that we're doing this work in this space for the sake of saying, hey, the same thing that I'm doing for my own life, I want to be able to introduce this to young people so that they too can live into their sweet spot. So what I'm asking you all to do, and a lot of this should be redundant, and it's intentionally redundant, is to take some time and write out again, and all of this will be on just one paper, or it's going to be in just one email that you all forward back to me. Is first, you're going to rewrite your picture of success, all right, in a very compact paragraph. We're not asking for an essay. One compact paragraph. What is your picture of success? Okay. And then from there, if we go over to this box, you're going to write out, okay, what are your strengths? So what are your top 5 strengths from your Strength Finder assessment? And you all kind of see all of this intentionally in the form of these boxes, because the synergy or the amalgamation, the point where all of these boxes come together, that is your sweet spot. That is your purpose. But when you send it to me, don't worry about this graphic as much. Just go ahead and send these in bullet point or paragraph format, and that's fine. So in a paragraph format, what's your picture of success? Then from there, what are your top 5 strengths? All right. And then when we go down to this bottom, the third quadrant, this third box, we're dealing with pain. Okay. So really, what is a key pain that you have overcome? Oftentimes, pastor speaks to the fact that your misery is your ministry. Right. So when you think of pain, what is that thing that comes to mind? What is that thing that you wrote about earlier in our time together that you wanted to address? Because chances are that particular pain or that particular place of ministry will be something ultimately that you are doing with the teens to kind of help them to overcome, to kind of help them to be better, to help them to really aspire towards working towards being the best versions of themselves. That sounded a little redundant, but it's all to the good. Okay. And then you're going to move from there in this fourth quadrant and write about your passion. Okay. Excuse me. What are you passionate about when you consider your strengths up here, when you consider your picture of success, when you consider what has caused you pain in the past that you've been able to overcome? What are you passionate about? What gives you great passion? What gets you out of bed in the morning? What is that thing that strokes your fire? What is that thing that excites you? What are you passionate about? Now, when you write out answers to all 4 of these prompts, picture of success, potential, pain, and passion, then ultimately your task is to bring all of these together in one succinct purpose statement. Okay? So where your picture of success, your strengths, pain, and passion meet is your place of purpose. That is your sweet spot. So this is the primary task for this week, is that when you bring all of these other statements together, now what is your purpose? So again, what I'm looking for when you all send me your email responses for this week, there's nothing that you have to fill out during this session. You only have to complete the action item. 1, your picture of success, your strengths, your pain, and then your passion. And then after that, a very succinct statement concerning your purpose. Now, you might be thinking, hey, I already sent you all of those other things. I know you sent it, but right now we're wanting all of it in one email for the sake of making sure that it's all together so that we can press forward with this sweet spot conversation. Knowing what your sweet spot is and your strengths are, now we can start formulating teams around these different statements for the sake of us being very intentional to make sure that we're living in spaces that align with who we are, that align with God's purpose and intentionality behind why he made us. All right, so that's basically it for this week. I'll be looking for those 5 statements from you. And when I say statements for the strengths, that's basically just the 5 strengths that came out of your Strength Finders assessment. Hopefully all of you all completed that and sent me those responses from the Gallup Strength Finder assessment. There's 2 PDFs that they send you. And I know I haven't gotten those from many people. So as you all take those Strength Finders assessment, please make sure that you send me those 2 PDF forms that populate after you do the Strength Finder assessment. All right. Let me just look back here at the action items. Now, it's just kind of one thing as well that I would like for you to talk about in your email, and this part is optional. But when you,
good morning,
sorry.
Staff.
All right, my apologies again for that interruption. So basically, the other thing that I would love for you all to do as part of the email that you send me is to just really speak to the fact that this purpose statement that you formulated, is this a new insight, or is this basically a statement that you are already well aware of? Did you already kind of know that this is how you're wired? Did you already have this purpose statement formulated for your own life? Or is this something that you were able to kind of chisel out as you went through this process with myself? So go ahead and send that, you all, by next Wednesday at 6:30. And I look forward to us just continuing beyond getting that purpose statement to start really thinking through the process of how do we work together as a team. All right. God bless you all.